Welcome to day 4 of the 4 critical principles for personal transformation and self-worth increase. Yeah. All right, let's keep going through this. The final lesson is a combination of 2 principles. Now, I really wanted to share one concept that is going to really make this last critical piece quite powerful. And so, the first concept I like to explain is called the driving force, which gives us our results. I'm going to break down the driving force behind our habits, etc. So, this is a different approach to how perspective manifests into experience. And there's the secret of feeling. Now, again, the secret of feeling, the feeling is a secret. I'm sure you've heard of this before. I'm going to really break it down and show you how to hack the driving force, which gives us our results. Again, a main talk about subject that most people intellectualize, but not actualize. It is critical. So, the common truth to why people don't see long lasting results is because of this. They do not go deep enough to access the real root cause. Once you hit that core root, it's like plucking a string. The resonance just goes throughout your whole body, and you feel the letting go, the releasing, and you might even have emotions that just purge out of you really quickly. Yes, that is a fact. So, second, they don't have the right information, tools, or techniques. There's a lot of BS and nonsense and fluff out there in the internet world. And three, they do not integrate the work well enough. They might go and, oh, I learned this once and that's good enough. Go to the next information, but not actually integrating. And even when people have realizations, deep realizations, like, oh my God, this is so amazing. And then, maybe a week later it fizzles out and is gone because they don't integrate it. And the more we integrate, the deeper we can actually go. So if we don't find that core belief yet while we're integrating, we will find it. We'll eventually settle into the bottom of it. So before diving into today's lesson, take a moment and reflect on where you are right now in your journey towards fulfillment. Consider the dreams you've held close, the aspirations that stir deep within your soul, and the obstacles that you might have that seem to continuously block your path. I have been here and it is lame. Now imagine a world where these obstacles start to dissolve one by one because you have changed. You're equipped yourself with the knowledge, the tools, the mindset, the integration skills to transform them into stepping stones. This is about evolving into the person who can achieve those dreams. So, what if I told you the next step in your journey isn't about doing more? I'm sure people are going to say, is it about being more? No, it's about alignment. Ha! It's about alignment, aligned action. So, I personally found I felt calmer, things came to me, things happened more quickly. And it's like the universe had my back and was working with me. That's what alignment is about. And doing the inner work, accessing core beliefs, using these 4 critical principles, working through them, you'll eventually find how to get into alignment very easily, very quickly. So it all starts with you investing into yourself. And, I have to say, you're amazing for going through these 4 critical days. I think you'll get amazing results if you really take it seriously. Every day, we are conditioning ourselves, whether we realize it or not. I mean, the billboards, the advertising, the marketing, social media, all of these things, TV, there's so many things, even people around us that watch the news and tell us things. It's crazy how much information we're bombarded with. And all of that is going into our subconscious. Some of it sticks, some of it doesn't, but it all has a tone. So every day, what are you doing to develop yourself? Because if you don't give back to yourself, invest into yourself at all, you're going to be going with the wind. You're going to be floating with what people say and how things go. And you'll never truly find your purpose, your passion, where you belong in the sense of what you want to give to the world, earn amazing amounts of money, a lifestyle you love and appreciate. And so it's really important. So every day, what are you conditioning yourself to be? So either you condition yourself or you let the world condition you. And this is a true fact that sometimes it hurts when people hear that. It's a side note. as you are watching this, I really appreciate you because you're taking the time to level yourself up, and the world really needs people to step into their power right now. I'm not even kidding. With all this said, let's get into today's lesson, the driving force of a behavior. Now, when we quit a behavior, an unpreferred behavior, like smoking, I used to smoke. And so the emotional drive, if the emotional drive is left intact, we will still be driven to do that something. So if we quit the behavior, but the emotional drive hasn't been dealt with, we will still be driven to do that something. That's why a lot of people, when they quit tobacco, they go to alcohol or they go to overeating and then they put on a whole bunch of weight and become unhealthy. And then they're like, oh, what's wrong? Because the emotional drive is still left intact and they're driven to do something. Going back to the lesson on survival mechanism, if they feel this weird emotion, this negative emotion inside of them, they're still going to be driven to numb it, to get away from it. And so, even though we quit the behavior, just because we say we quit a behavior does not actually mean we are free from the driving force. Nah, that drives us toward the behavior. If we quit a behavior, but the emotional drive is still intact, we are using willpower to resist the emotional drive. And eventually, willpower loses against emotional drive. It just does. Our heart space, our heart field is way more powerful than our brain. Our emotions are way more powerful. And remember, emotions trump logic. So the mind is not as strong as the heart. The only way to win is to go deep enough and change the factors generating the emotions driving us. So the same thing goes for starting a new pattern or behavior. When we start a new pattern or behavior, but we don't have a good enough emotional drive, we will be primarily using mental willpower. When life comes up, puts a resistance up, we won't have a strong enough drive to keep us going. This is why a lot of people fail. You know, so the resistance could be I'm not enough, I'm not worthy. We self sabotage, we procrastinate, or at first resistance, like I'm just going to give up. Now, we might even self sabotage the progress we've made. And so, again, I've been through this. And so I really wanted to break this down to simplify it so you could really see it. We really understand the process of a behavior. So the results of life are from our behaviors, our actions. And so our behaviors and actions are driven by our emotions, the feeling, emotional drive. But then there's, okay, well, why are we generating the emotions that we have within us? It's from beliefs. Our beliefs generate emotion or feeling. Now, for example, if someone has a belief that, oh, the streets are dangerous, and then they go into the city and they're in the streets, guess what's going to happen? They're going to feel anxious. They're going to feel on the edge of their seat, looking for absolutely all the negative things to watch out for, and they're going to have generate such a negativity inside of fear, anxiety, that they're going to want to numb it. They're going to go for coffee. They're going to go for treats. They're going to go for alcohol, tobacco, marijuana, whatever it is. And a person that has a belief that, oh, the streets are full of opportunity. There's so much opportunity. There's amazing market. So many people have skills. I wonder how I could really meet so many amazing people. And so that person, when they're in the city, they're going to feel confident. They're going to feel like, yeah, who can I meet today? Where's the opportunity? Oh, I just have so much enthusiasm to be here. And they're going to feel so great, and they're going to be so grounded in their body and not have to move away from themselves. They're actually going to be highly productive individuals. They're going to get things done. They're going to make deals. They're going to really accelerate in business. So, belief. I've always heard, you got to believe, you got to believe. And in my mind, I was always asking, well, how do I believe? And people would respond, oh, well, you just you gotta believe that you can get into the belief and believe it. That doesn't make any sense to me. So many people talk about belief, but they don't actually explain how a belief forms. And this annoyed me for the longest time. So I took a really deep dive into this. So a belief, it starts out with an introduced idea or concept, perspective. And when that perspective starts to change our emotions and our reticular activating system. So we start to see a lot more evidence. Our mind filters out everything else. All irrelevant information keeps the relevant information. We start accumulating validation. And the more validation we gain, maybe it's talking to a friend and they're like, oh, yeah, because people love to relate to one another, right? So they'll pick out of all their database of their brain, their memories. Oh, I remember this one time where this happened to me. And they love to relate, right? And so more validation, more validation. Eventually, we get so much validation that we start to make assumptions. Oh, this must be the way it is. Everyone's telling me this is the right way, and I feel like I got enough validation. My mind is like bringing me evidence, and then eventually our mind starts to conclude, well, this is the way it is. I don't need to put any more energy into thinking about this anymore. And that's when it settles into the subconscious. Once we believe it, once we confirm and conclude, well, I have enough evidence. I have enough evidence. I don't have to think about this because the mind doesn't like to use up energy, right? And so we'll keep processing an idea until we get enough information. Then, boom, it settles. It's like, ah, cool. Boom, in the subconscious. And that's when a belief starts to influence everything about who we are. A belief start when we're in the situations that our belief is resonating with, it'll create feeling. That feeling will be our emotional drive, which then drives our behaviors, and our behaviors give us results in life. Hopefully, this made sense. This was a huge aha moment and started to really change my life. So, before tying the feeling that I'll be sharing in a moment into what you've just learned, which is going to be a hack to the behavior sequence breakdown I just showed you, I want to share. So, these lessons are more important and critical than one might realize. So I get it. I've been through it, and again, this is not textbook learned. All None of it is. Yes, I went to school for hypnotherapy because it worked. I transformed more in 5 months than I did in 5 years when I went into hypnotherapy. Took sessions from someone else. It was amazing. But other than that, I actually went through it, and this is not AI generated. This is create all this information is put together before actually became a thing. So I'm gonna get into the just some basics, what I've learned over the years and what I went through. So self-sabotage, you know exactly what you want to do, but you just don't do it, right? Or you overthink until the opportunity passes, which I miss so many opportunities. And then you'll wait until you feel ready, but that day never comes. You start strong, then quietly disappear from your own goals. I've been through it. Living for validation, another just what a transformation. But one compliment, lifts you up, you feel great, and then one criticism just crushes you. Your emotions are all over the place based on other people. You replay conversations long after they're over. You compare yourself to everyone else around you. You care more about being accepted than being authentic. This is huge. So then, of course, there's playing small. I used to play small all the time. You settle for less than what you truly want. You hesitate to speak up, ask, or take the chance. You watch others live the life you're capable of somewhere inside. Then there's never feeling good enough. Every achievement feels temporary. You notice your mistakes more than your progress. You feel constantly, or you constantly feel like you have something to prove to someone. To who? Hopefully just to yourself. And then, of course, there's no matter how much you accomplish, it never feels like enough. Then there's a feeling stuck. You keep repeating the same pattern. You know you're capable of more, yet nothing seems to change or very little changes. You wonder why growth never lasts. And then deep down, you're exhausted from fighting yourself every day. It can break someone down. And so remember this, the driving force of behavior. So we're going to now tie into feeling and how feeling really goes into this. So feeling, emotional drive. Start with this. Feel what you truly prefer. Use your imagination, imagine, visualize, and feel what it would be like to have your dreams come true, that you're living it. Visualize yourself living your dreams, acting out your dreams, and really get into the emotion. Know your emotion, know the feeling. The more you can have the feeling so well imprinted and conditioned into the water of your body, your cells, just inside of yourself, the more you can recall it, the faster you can recall it. And this will be alignment. It's just like, boom, alignment. Oh, I remember the feeling. And so what happens with feeling is when you explore the feeling, generate it as best as you can. And eventually, the more you condition it into your body, guess what? It will start to influence your perspective. It starts to influence the reticular activating system, and you start to notice things in alignment with the feeling. And the more you get into the feeling and resonate it through your body, eventually your perspectives will be primarily in directive or in alignment with the feeling, right? And so if we now do this backwards. So introduce idea or concept, perspective. If our feeling is strong, the vision is clear, and we can recall it just like that in any moment of any day, where it's just like, I got it. Yes, then our perspective is eventually going to add in more and more validation. We're going to talk to people, and because people love to relate to one another, they'll pick all from all their database of their memory. They'll say, "Oh, I remember this," and it correlates directly with our perspective, our thought process. The more validation, eventually we come to a conclusion, or we assume, "Oh, this must be the way it is. I got enough validation." Then our mind will say, okay, mind, we don't have to think about that anymore. Let's settle it. Let's put it in the background. And that turns into a belief. Ideas we integrate and hold to be true. Now, this is where it gets great. So now we have beliefs that are built upon the feeling, our perspective that is based on the feeling. And now we have a supportive backing to the new feeling. And now our feeling, the emotional drive, is going to drive us to do behaviors that are in alignment with what we actually prefer. And we get the results in life. Is this great or what? It works. It works. The feeling is a critical factor with transformation. So is perspective, energy for success, and survival instincts into the four critical pieces here. So, going deep enough into all four of these and doing this self development on the inside, you'll thrive. You'll thrive. And just keep it simple. Yeah, four critical components, four critical principles. Because too much information is overwhelmed, we get nowhere because there's, oh, what do I do? Which direction do I go? What do I practice? These four things, you will get results. I mean it. So, closing thoughts, money is directly tied to self worth. Our relationships are directly tied to self worth. Our quality of life is directly tied to self worth. And these four critical principles are very much the basis of how you could transform, increase your self worth very quickly. So looking back the last 3 years of life, how much have you changed? Like, be honest with yourself. What if you could collapse those 3 years into one or even 6 months because you had the right tools and approach? And this is a probability. I remember when I had my first major breakthrough with getting into clinical hypnotherapy, going the alternate route, and through subconscious sciences, I ended up changing more in 5 months than I did in 5 years. And I said this in 2017. And since then, I haven't stopped my research. I've just been fine tuning systems and processes, figuring out how to collapse belief systems and rapidly change belief systems quickly. And so you probably tried, motivation books, courses, podcasts, affirmations, productivity systems, and countless ways to improve yourself. I know I have, there's years where I went through a bunch of information. Most of it was good, most of it was great, and not a lot stuck. Not a lot actually worked. So the real problem isn't that you need another strategy. It's that your self-worth has become the ceiling for everything you believe you're allowed to experience, that you allow yourself to experience. So self worth is nothing to mess with. If you really want profound transformation, get your self worth done right and increase it, completely transform it. And you'll go into any course, any book, any podcast, and you will begin to just really soak up the information and just move forward. There will not be a ceiling. There will just be, I can learn this. I'm going to learn this. Let's go. And so, funny story, not really, sad story. I remember buying a $10,000 course on mindset. The person selling it said, by paying more, you pay more attention and gain more benefit. And I went with this. Unfortunately, I had an extremely low self worth. And as great as the course was, it did not solve my problem. The level of my worth held me back. I struggled every time I came close to my ceiling. And I really did not, I could not afford to lose that $10,000. But I'm like, well, I'm just going to give my last money I could scrape up. And hopefully this will be it. And it was not. And then I dove deep into self worth because I realized I had a really deep problem and it transformed myself. I just went 2 feet in, full force. Now it doesn't matter how expensive or how cheap a course is, I gained immense value. I became an aligned action taker, even from a book. I could just integrate it, could soak it up and just make it happen. So if you're like me that wants a fast track to inner development with a step-by-step approach with detailed, simplified structure, I can help, but only a limited amount of people at a time. I'm now like over 35 years old. I've had 3 profound identity transformations, and I also feel younger and have more energy, excitement, love for life, and productivity than I did in my early 20s. Felt like I was in sludge in my early 20s. So what if you no longer experience self-doubt, self-sabotage, second-guessing, resistive ceilings anymore? This is possible in a very short amount of time with the right information. We only need 66 days to completely transform ourselves, to set ourselves into a new direction. That's it. It doesn't matter how long you've been in a pattern. If you've been in a pattern for 40 years, the science is you only need 66 days to really rewire and get into a new pattern. Now, there's a little bit more to that, of course, but I can say that in 66 days, you can get really far in a very short amount of time, no matter how long your patterns are. I've helped people shift out of patterns that they had their whole life. And all it took was like a few sessions and some education, and they completely shattered their old paradigms. So, do I have a sales pitch? Well, if you are serious about results that run deep into the subconscious, if you are ready to stop circling through endless information, being a know it all, but not getting real results, deeply rooted results, and are ready to be a part of a movement that is doing the grounded work, the real work, I only have limited spots. This is a passion project. I love what I do. My time is limited. The 42-day self-worth reset guide is with one-on-one support at this time for the best results possible. I do this for a reason. I want people to get real results. That's why I will only do one-on-one support now. And I won't do, yeah. Anyways, the link and details will be in the description. That's my pitch. And so if you know what I'm talking about and get it, you know what to do. Find the link in the description to proceed. My name is Michael. Checking out. Bye for now.